Alright, so let's talk about who I am, what C++ is, and why this course is super awesome. So who I am. My name is Daybell. I have an Associate's of Pre-Engineering with an emphasis on software engineering. I've got 2.5 years of teaching experience. I have 3 years using C++, and 5 years as a Linux user. That's all I use. I've tried to go back to Windows several times, and it never seems to work out quite right. I love teaching people languages, programming especially, because what's really cool is, like, I grew up as a kid, we would constantly play with Legos, and for me, it's kind of, programming is like Legos for computers. You can build anything you want all the time. There's no restrictions as to what you can make if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. So that's what's really cool. Why is C++ a good language for you to start out using? Well, okay, so it's the language I learned to program with, but I've used probably between 5 and 10 different languages since learning C++. And other languages are awesome. Other languages do so many cool things, but at the same time, other languages they disconnect from the real hardware of the computer. And knowing the hardware, knowing what your computer is trying to do, why you're getting the errors that you're getting, will save you so much time in the future. If you can understand why the computer does what it does, how it does what it does, that sort of stuff. So C++ is a perfect language to learn that sort of stuff. Because there's no interpreter, there's no runtime environment, there's nothing in between you and your hardware. What happens is you write code in C++, it gets compiled down into machine code. That's the ones and zeros that run on your computer. It goes straight from the code you wrote straight to the ones and zeros that happen on your that actually exist in your computer, and then it runs on your CPU. Other languages have something, either it's like an interpreter, or they have a runtime environment, like Java has a runtime environment. Python is an interpreted language, so it's got an interpreter. JavaScript is somewhere in there also. It's interpreted, it's not compiled. So that's the difference there, is that the languages that are interpreted and not compiled, they don't actually run on the hardware. So they're not going to give you those kinds of errors. If you mess something up, they're just going to figure it out for you. And C++ won't do that. It is going to throw an error and tell you that this can't be compiled. Or if you've done something wrong with your memory management, it will tell you, oh, you stepped out of bounds, this is not going to work. So that's why I think C++ is awesome, because it's more difficult to learn, yes, but it's going to help you understand the computer better, the why and how of the computer better. And at the same time, it's also, if you can learn C++ and you can program well on C++, it's my personal belief that you can program in any language well and effectively, because you'll really understand the basics of what the computer is doing. And I think languages typically only get easier from C++ on up. I think they only get easier. So thank you guys for listening to this video. And go ahead and start with part 1, where we will introduce you on how to install a compiler and how to build a simple Hello World application.